you considered the messages your outfits send? What do you think your clothes say about you? See, style is about the clothes, but it's not really about the clothes. Every day you make choices about what you're going to wear, but what are you communicating? Welcome to Above and Beyond Style. I'm your host, Maria DiLorenzo, and in 2019, I founded MFD Style, where I provide a unique, intuitive approach to personal styling for those ready to embrace a more meaningful look. With this podcast, I'll uncover key elements of where spirituality, psychology, and style intersect, revealing how you can make intentional wardrobe choices that reflect who you really are. So let me ask you, are you ready to transform into your authentic self? Then it's time. Come with me on this journey, and together we'll take your style above and beyond style. Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Above and Beyond Style. This is season 2. I am just so thrilled with the fact that you are back listening to me in this second season. You know, I released the first season of Above and Beyond Style at the beginning of 2022, and it was sort of my little pet project that I wanted to really put out into the world and give podcasting a shot. You know, I had done it periodically for employers and been a guest on several people's podcast. And so it was really exciting for me to launch this podcast with my own voice, the topics that were most important to me, and that really gave what I believe is a foundation for understanding why I'm podcasting. So if you happen to be starting with season 2, I want to encourage you to go back to season 1 because I think there are a lot of hidden gems over the course of those 12 episodes that give you a lot of insight and understanding about me, about my own style journey, about the philosophies that I really try to ascribe to and live my life by, and the ways that I try to show up and help my clients, you as listeners, people in my life through the medium of wardrobe to find these connections between style, spirituality, and psychology, which have been my 3 loves for as long as I can remember. And it was just crazy to me when all of this sort of came together in the podcast. It felt like the perfect way for me to bring all of these passions and topics and ideas together to share with you. So again, if you haven't listened to season 1, I just would love you to. I'd love you to hear the journey that style has taken me on, the ways that it continues to inspire me, and how I truly believe authenticity is born from this experiment with style. And you will hear me say, and I talk about it time and time again, that authentic style is derived from knowing your authentic self. And I truly believe in the exploration of both season 1 and now season 2, you're going to start to see the ways authentic style really shows up for people in the exploration of their authentic selves. Which is why I wanted season 2 to be a little different. If you'll notice, all of season 1 is solo episodes of just me and my voice and my thoughts. And I really wanted to bring in season 2 a variety of voices from all different aspects of my life. And interestingly enough, they happen to all be women. It wasn't really something I intended or set out to have as voices in this podcast, but it just sort of turned out that way. And I think that's a really beautiful, just important part of how these messages get communicated to you through the lens of these women and their various expertise. I wanted to bring them in to give you an expanded understanding of the ways that style, spirituality, and psychology all can be interplaying with one another. And I think through these various voices, you will see the ways that style is more than just wardrobe. We will definitely talk about wardrobe, and it is a big theme through the majority of these episodes, but there are other ways too that style has a broader lens, has a more expansive understanding. And I really hoped to bring that to you so that you could start to see the ways that we can really open our own selves to the way style might intersect with our own lives. And if clothing and wardrobe maybe isn't your thing, that how you can look at your own life in new and different ways to see where style then can intersect through makeup, through design or your home, through communication messages, through your own intuitive knowing and spiritual knowing. You're just going to hear so many different ways through these various voices how I tried to dig in and understand through their own experiences where style showed up and where these spiritual and psychological themes were also drawn from that. So I just hope you enjoy this, because I had nothing but pure joy in inviting these women into these conversations, asking them these really critical questions and thoughts about their own experiences and their own expertise. And many of them, you'll find out too, also work with me personally. I've had a few select folks among this group who were style clients of mine. And so we're able to talk to you about the experience of working with me as a wardrobe consultant, and where were the deeper level learnings and insights that came from that experience. So I feel really lucky because all of these voices really demonstrate the power of a shared experience and shared voice, and how we have so much to learn from one another. I am always so encouraged by the experience of learning. I am a learner. I'm someone who really enjoys digging into a topic and, having my mind expanded by new insights, which is something that I think as a human being, we can never stop learning. We can never stop seeing new perspectives and ways that we might approach something, which I think our world so desperately needs. It just feels like the divisiveness and the challenges of being human now feel so much more complex. And so maybe this is my little way and my little corner of the world that thankfully you are sharing with me, that you might be inspired to have your own mind expanded and to entertain new ideas and to see new insights in ways that maybe you didn't see them before. And I think that's a really important part of why I started this podcast, because I wanted you to understand there's more to style than what meets the eye. It can often be seen as a very shallow or surface level sort of industry. And yes, that can be very true. There's a lot of evidence that points to that. But there's also more there. And through my own life and my own experiences and in these conversations with these women, you will see where I have been enriched by style, where it has given me this true anchor in my life to explore and to deepen my own life and my own experiences. And it's a wonderful way to express my authenticity, and I hope you will also be inspired to do that too. So without further ado, I'm going to kick us into season 2, but I just want to offer my just deepest gratitude for you joining me in this way and in this medium and continuing to explore what style might mean for you and to open up those pathways so that we can have more conversations and learn from one another. So I encourage you to, if you want to leave a review on any of these episodes, any of the previous episodes that I've recorded, I'd just love to hear from you. I'd love to know your feedback and your questions and maybe some of the things that you're sitting with as you consider what above and beyond style really means for you. So everyone, without further ado, let's get into it. So welcome back, everyone, to Above and Beyond Style. This is season 2, where I am talking with a variety of different service providers and experts in their fields to dig even deeper into this conversation about style with that lens for the psychological and spiritual aspects that underscore so much of what I do. So today's guest is a fellow stylist, Erin Stoll, who owns and operates the brand StyleThiefFashion. Now, Erin lives in Omaha, Nebraska, where her business was born out of her love for individual style. She says that every day we have the chance to tell the world who we are through what we put on. Sound familiar, everybody? So her goal is to empower her clients to give themselves permission to embrace their style. And in fact, she has a very unique service that we're going to discuss a bit further that really speaks to this. So I couldn't think of a more perfect partner for this conversation about style and identity than Erin. So Erin, welcome to Above and Beyond Style.
Maria, hi. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a fun. I'm so excited to have this conversation. You and I have talked so many times about strengths and style, and I'm really excited that now we get to bring more people into this conversation that we've had so many times. So thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a total pleasure. And really, when I was thinking about the season two, you were at the top of the list, really thinking about all these unique ways that I think style can sort of manifest and be drawn out of people. So, we're going to spend some time today really digging into this topic. But I thought for anybody who is maybe not familiar with you and your work, I'd love to just hear a little bit of your story, a little bit of your background. Like, how did you come to become a stylist? All the good stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's such a was such a funny journey. And I also love hearing how other people became stylists. Because I don't think, when my daughter just had a career counseling session at school. I don't think personal stylist is on the list when you're a child. Like I didn't even
Totally.
know this existed. I mean, it's definitely something that just kind of happened along the way. I've always loved style. I've always loved clothes. I've always loved fashion. I wanted to subscribe to Vogue when I was like in middle school. Um, was always looking at, I couldn't watch a movie without being like, oh, I love that outfit. And I want to figure out how to emulate that for myself. So my pathway to style really was that's where Style Thief comes from, was me like seeing an image and then stealing it and making it my own. And when I struggled for a long time with my appearance and liking what I saw in the mirror. And then when I finally, I think as we get older, just so much wisdom comes our way and we kind of outgrow some of those ways of thinking. But it started to just shift to be about what I wanted and what I felt great in, and not paying as much attention to what everyone else was doing. And that's when things really clicked for me. And I had this realization when I turned 40 of like, I think other women would really benefit from this approach. And, probably much like you, friends came to me for style and fashion advice a lot, or wanted to borrow my clothes or help me put an outfit together. It just kind of naturally happened. And so I thought, well, what if I turn this into a business, and would it go anywhere? And the resounding answer was yes, and has been yes. And in January, I quit my job, my full-time job of 10 years in development work, and launched into styling full time. So it's been quite a journey that really started with me learning about myself, and to kind of lead into where we're going, my strengths. Like, what did I want? What did I naturally gravitate toward? What did I feel best in? And I really believe that that's the philosophy for my clients that I try to impart, that you have everything you need. Let me help you bring that forth so it can show up in the way you want in terms of your style.
Oh, I love this. Thank you for painting the picture. Because I think it's funny as I talk to stylists across the board, like it's very rarely a linear path for many of
Yes.
us.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I think what's really beautiful about what you've just described was you took up it upon yourself to connect with your identity and really get clear on, as you mentioned, perhaps maybe struggling with body issues or the
Yeah.
way that you looked in the mirror, how clothes fit. And
Yeah.
so to be able to be of service in this way, I love that you did the work first. And
Yeah.
so can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, were there
Yeah.
things that you did to really dig into that process? Like, did you hire a stylist? Like, I'm just curious about like how that worked for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I did not hire a stylist, but I look for inspiration everywhere. And I think it comes from so many different places. I talked about movies and TV and magazines. I mean, I still love a magazine. And some of the fashion can just really seem out there, but there's something about it that will inspire you. And you have to figure out what that is and how to make it true for you, and how it can show up for you. So I think it was a lot of that and tapping into that. And I live in Omaha, Nebraska. this is not the fashion capital. And I remember borrowing my friend's leopard print rain jacket. It was made out of plastic in college, and walking around, and I put that thing on and I just felt like, wow, this is what has been missing from my life. And people would be like, you are wearing a leopard print rain jacket? I'm like, yeah. I mean, it wasn't even mine, it was my friend's, like, but she didn't even wear it. And you find these moments of like, no, I don't care what everyone else is going to think. Like, I'm just going to wear this because I want to. Um and I do think turning 40
Yes.
had a lot to do with that. And there's a switch that happens. You come into your own and you really stop the external. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't still care what other people think or sometimes question my fashion choices. I mean, I'm a human being, but really intrinsically, you have this moment inside where you're like, F it. I mean, really,
Hmm.
I'm just going to do what feels right to me. And and I think sometimes, I just bought this really oversized floral coat, and I have just kind of been stuck in a rut fashion wise, and I saw this coat and it just sparked something in me, and I went for it. And I mean, I wore it out in public, and I mean, I was getting the side eye, like, what is she wearing? And it was that leopard jacket moment. I was like, I just don't care. I love this. I feel like it's me. I feel like it's this beautiful expression. It's beautifully made. And I think that has been the journey of trying and failing and having those moments. I mean, I've had those moments where I've wanted to cancel plans because I didn't know what to wear or I didn't like my body. And those are the moments I can look back and be like, you were just trying too hard. You were trying too hard. You were trying to think, what is everyone else wearing? And I got to match that, instead of being like, what feels good to me? And that's what I'm going to go with. Um, I'm not sure I answered your question, but
No, you did. You did. Because
oh
I think
gosh.
the heart of what I heard you say was about having the courage to give yourself
Yes,
permission to
the
be you.
permission.
Yes,
How much do we not do that as women?
totally. And that in particular, it's funny how I think so many operate without realizing that we need it. And that,
Yeah.
right, that the permission actually, as you mentioned, it's intrinsic. It comes from inside. It's not going to be found in this external environment from all these magical sources that we think will have the answer. But instead, it's when we get quiet, we connect with who we are, and we really get clear, right? And I think that, to me, as I hear your story, I think it's such a perfect example. And I imagine so many listeners will resonate with that about, yeah, I've looked outside of myself so many times to try to find what my style is, how I'm supposed to show up, what feels good, and
Yeah.
are not finding it, right?
No. And it is a process, but
Yes.
I think that is our true job as stylists, to dig in and help women put a voice to, what is this thing? How do I want to feel?
Yeah.
And it will be about the clothes, and we will find those pieces that express that. But the deeper work that we do, there's deeper work that we do. And I think there's a big misperception that I'm just going to tell you to scrap everything in your wardrobe and everything you're doing wrong, and we're going to start from scratch, and it's going to be about what I think your style should be. And that is absolutely not true. It starts with, what do you want? How do you want to feel? And
Mm,
tapping into that. And a lot of it, what we do is giving these women, our clients, permission to
that's right.
say, wear that. That looks great.
Mhm.
Or don't wear that, because I can tell by the look on your face that you hate this thing.
Yeah.
So stop trying to be that person, or stop trying to wear
Mhm.
all these blazers if you don't like a blazer, or wear more blazers if you do. It is the permission piece. And I love that I get to be that
Mm.
person.
Yeah.
But then at the end of it, I haven't done my job if then you can't do that for yourself too.
That's right. That's right. It's taking it to that next level and
Yeah.
helping really empower. And I've heard you use that word a ton
What
in
my
your
whole
work.
process is called.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I have to,
So
I
go
want to
ahead, please.
impart that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a real key factor here that I think is linking some of the work that you do with this conversation that we're having around identity and understanding who we are. And so for anyone that may not be familiar with Gallup Strengths, this is a part of the conversation that Erin is a certified coach in the Gallup Strengths. So I'd love you to talk more about this tool and to give a little bit of context for how it's going to inform a little bit of what you do here.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of the first things you and I connected on.
Yes.
Strengths. And if you know, and if you don't, let me tell you what that's about. So Gallup is an organization that's actually was started in Nebraska. So I'm lucky enough to be in Omaha where the headquarters are. That was based on years of research about human behavior and what we all have that are natural born talents that we can turn into strengths that can really aid us in our goals and relationships and work in life in general. And it is foundationally about being more of who you are and less of who you are not. And our culture is really focused on, well, if you're not good at something, you should just work harder at that thing. But Gallup really takes that entire basis and says, no, what you should do is focus more on what you're already good at. Use these tools. We can talk about weaknesses. We all have things we have to manage on our daily basis, but the strengths is where your greatest opportunity for growth lies. And it's tapping into the things you already do well. Don Clifton, who is the founder of Gallup, has a quote that says, what would happen if we stop focusing on what is wrong with people and start focusing on what is right with them? So I had been familiar with Gallup, growing up in Nebraska, took the first Strengths Finder when I was in college. And it is, for lack of a better term, I'm going to put it in a very simple terms, it is a personality assessment. And I know there are many, and I believe I have taken them all. I always love self-discovery. But to me, Strengths Finder is the only one that gets very specific as to who you are. And a good analogy is, something like Myers-Briggs or Enneagram will get you in the zip code of where you live, but Gallup will tell you how you decorate your house, how you organize your bedroom. Like, it will be very specific to you and where you live, instead of a more general term as to, oh, I'm kind of in this camp of like empaths, and I'm kind of in this camp as like, the helpers. But we're all unique individuals with different things to bring to the table. So Gallup can really measure what those are. And it was such an eye-opening. When I first took that and got my results and found out empathy was my number one, it made so much sense. Like, why can't I watch a commercial without crying? Why do I walk into a room and know what just happened here? Something's off. I can sense and feel and tap into energies of people. I think it's one of the main reasons it makes me good at my job as a stylist.
Yes.
I literally can be like, you hate this outfit,
Yes.
You love this. You walked out and you're glowing. Like, it's this really, and I think a lot of times, empathy is an example, maybe wouldn't be seen as a strength. Can it get in the way of my success? Sure. But really owning that theme has helped me so much in my growth journey, especially in this field. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But once you are aware of these things, it's hard to not be aware of them and use them every day. And just, it is a practice. It's hard. It's not in our nature to just like focus on what's good. We just want to constantly be fixing what's not right.
Totally.
So it's a very big shift. But immediately when I started working with clients, I was like, I want to know what this person's top 5 strengths are. I feel like there's some deliberative here. Like, we have to really deliberate on all of these choices, and it's almost painstaking, but once we make a decision, it's the right one. And I can appreciate that. And lo and behold, someone would take this assessment and be like, deliberative number 2. So it's a way to really help my clients notice these things about themselves, but it helps me service them better.
Yeah.
Because I can speak their language, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
I was just going to say that it's a common framework.
Yes.
That you can operate from. And, you're right. I was introduced to Gallup years ago when I worked in higher education, the institution I was working for.
Very big in higher education.
Yes. So there was a kind of a big push across the institution for all these various departments to participate in taking it. Now students take it on a regular level, et cetera. So the world of strengths and the conversation and the language, you make a point about that, was such a great foundation for having these conversations about intrinsic motivation, behavioral practices, like all the things that I love your analogy that you painted there about, how we operate in the world and having this tool to inform. So there are, from what I understand, there are 34 total
Yes.
talents that can be
Yes.
leveraged as strengths.
Yep.
And the report as a default gives you your top 5, correct?
Yes. Yes. There are new reports now. You can see your all 34, how all 34 rank.
Yeah.
So there's different levels. Like that one's a little more expensive, but at the core, when you have your top 5, like I kind of describe those 5 themes as your dominant hand. Like if I asked you to pick up a pen and close your eyes and write your name 3 times, you could do it. It would probably be pretty legible. It would be easy. You could get it done quickly. But if I asked you to do that with your non-dominant hand,
yes,
you'd be like, this is taking a long time. It wouldn't look great. And that's kind of how you can view these things. You do them without even thinking. You're so close to them, you don't even realize that they're there sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you do realize it, you're like, oh, that's why I ask so many questions. Oh, that's why I need to sit by myself and kind of like think things over before I make a decision.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. It's
It
wild.
is wild.
Self-discovery.
And I'll share just my number 1 is,
I have to know. Yes.
Yeah, of course, is relator.
Yeah.
And the real key that unlocked relator for me was about, now I'm a relatively extroverted person. I worked in event planning for many years before I was doing styling full time. And, I could have lots of conversations with people. You walk in, you chit chat. I was in fundraising, et cetera. So I was accustomed to being able to do that. And I couldn't figure out for the longest time why I felt so empty in those conversations.
My gosh.
And realize that the real core of the relator is I appreciate and value deep, intimate conversations and relationships with a select few. Yes. Which is so me. Like I struggle to have shallow conversations with people. Not that I can't do it. It's very easy for me to come by, but it was like a game changer. Talk about permission. I got the permission to understand that, like, that's why I don't love that as much as other people do.
Networking events. So
real
depleting for you, because that's all you do is move on, like high level weather. Oh gosh, blah, 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 and then move on to the next one. Have the same conversation over and over. There's no depth there. You can connect, you can do it, but then you got to go home and just like recharge.
Totally. Which is why the relator in me loves this type of conversation that you and I are having, because we can speak candidly, we can dig in deeper, we can explore these ideas, right? This is the kind of thing that really like feeds my soul. And I feel that. It's crazy how I feel that in my physical body too. Yeah. So I am a huge believer, proponent, all things strengths. I think it's such a fascinating tool. I love it when I have friends and family members who have taken the assessment. We can have conversations about it. I can also release some of the expectations and pressures that I might feel about other people, knowing their strengths. Like truly, I don't mean to be an advertisement for Gallup, but I really feel strongly that people should take it because I think it's very informative.
It is. And I say all the time, every time I do with this with someone, they're like, I want my partner to take this. And yes. Like, yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
It really, what it does is one of the key core foundation principles of strengths is that they lead with positive intent. They are not labels for people. Right. So you have to understand, anytime you get a result from, like, anytime you see a result, these are positive things. Right. But I think we can label people, in a work setting. We use this when I worked at Special Olympics. It really takes that negativity out of it. This person won't stop asking questions in a meeting. They won't stop asking questions. It's because they have input.
That's right.
And they want to, I want to know, I want to gather this information. Okay, one more thing I have to, maybe it's something else too, but when I understand what that is and what that means for them, then I can be less judgmental. My patience will not be as short with that person when I understand, wow, this is a true strength. And you know what? She asked some great questions I hadn't even thought of that might then be roadblocks for us in this project. So when you have a positive, you lead with that positive intent about all of these strengths, you really can see the person as a whole person. And I think when we go back to style, we can't just you're not a Barbie doll. We're not just putting clothes on you and be like, go out in the world. Like, if it doesn't make sense with your whole person and who you are, then you're always going to be searching for that next great shirt, and you're going to keep buying things, or you're going to keep defaulting to the thing you always wear because you don't know what it is. So that's why I wanted to mesh the two in this work that I do, because I think it's that holistic approach to really understand and know what your style is. You got to understand yourself.
Yeah, I love that. So let's dig in a bit more to this service that you have created around self and style, which I think you should like copyright and trademark and brand and do all the things if you haven't, because I think it's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Well, I keep calling it strength and style. And I'm like, maybe that's what I should call it too, because strength and self, they're interchangeable. But I think it's self, because that's what it is that internal piece.
So tell us about how this plays out for anyone that might work with you in this context. It's obviously not the only service that you provide, but it's one that really marries this whole concept of strengths with, as we're talking about being stylists.
Yes. So I describe it as the perfect blend of self-discovery and style. So it's really one conversation that's about 90 minutes long. Before we meet, I have you take the strengths assessment and get those top 5 results. And then we get together, and the first half of the call is really diving into what do these things mean for you. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory, like discipline. I think we kind of know what that is. Of course, Gallup has, oh, that's your number 3. God, I love that.
I am so disciplined. It's frightening. Yes.
I tell you that's maybe my number 32. So it's okay. I have other strengths. So some of them are pretty self-explanatory, but some of them have a little more. It's like, there's one called significance, which is so intriguing to me. It's more rare that it would show up in someone's top 5, but it really is I want to make an impact in this world. I have something to say. When you don't listen to what I have to say, that's really hard. I want to stand out. So my clients who have significance, like, they're not trying to look like everybody else. They're trying to leave a mark. So we really dig into, what do these things mean? How do they show up for you? Something else that's really important to note is, you and I could have similar themes in our top 5, Maria, but we are really different people. The recipe from Maria is really different from the recipe from Erin. So do we share a theme? Do we share positivity?
It's my number 6. So
okay. And then, if we looked at that and we put these two, I'm using recipes, I'm making the quotes side by side. Well, the recipe for Maria has positivity. Erin has it too. Let's think of it as salt. But with Maria, I'm making brownies. And with Erin, I'm making like a quiche. So they're doing different things because of the other ingredients that are wrapped around it. So just understanding the dynamics of how these things work together, and how they're the filter for how you see the world. They are how you build relationships. They're how you get things done. They're how you influence people, how you strategize. So understanding that piece. And then the second half of the call, we translate all of these things to your style. So it's funny. It's not funny. I'm not really surprised when I think about it. The majority of the women that I have worked with so far, and I would work with men too, but it's been women primarily, have learner in their top 5 and are very interested in this work because they have a curiosity and a lifelong need and want to learn more about themselves, to learn more about style. So one of the things that I have been able to tell, I think 3 people have had learner, is you keep reading about fashion, subscribe to a fashion magazine, find blogs you like, look on Instagram for inspiration, learn about the trends that are coming your way. Like, you want to keep moving forward in your style, learn about what that looks like for you.
This is so perfect.
Oh, yeah. I do that. That's why I do that. That's why I do that. That's why I'm always interested in, like, what's the next great thing coming along, or I want to read all I can about sustainability and the brands that are doing a really good job. That all points back to that learner aspect.
Yeah.
So how does that impact how you get dressed every day? Well, maybe you are the kind of person who, because you want to learn about the trends, you want to try something new. So every spring or every new season, you're going to look up what are the top 5 trends and maybe figure out which one you're going to adapt, just as an example. So I
Mhm.
really try to give you an overview of here's these themes, but then specifically for you, how does this show up in your style? How it can impact your style. And it's not just you're going to love a jacket and you're going to love a t-shirt and you're going to love a jean. It's a little more high level. Like, how can you keep cultivating these things into your style each day? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, it does. It's like creating synergy between,
Absolutely.
right? Like who you are, how you operate, what brings you joy, where again, I love that like right hand, left hand, depending which is your dominant, like what's your dominant talent that you do without even thinking about it? And how does that play into choices around your style? It is no question in my mind impactful and effective because having that information, and I'm curious, do you have individualization in your
No,
where is that for
not
you?
not my top. I know,
I
right?
would have thought you would have. It's my number 5, and I find this whole concept like really sparks that for me because it's about this journey of the individual that like
Yes.
there are no two people that are alike, and thank goodness
No.
for that. And how do we learn to celebrate and to acknowledge and recognize these people in a way that they feel more empowered, go back to your word, to
Yes.
do their life? And that
Yes.
to me is the like the magic of how all of your service works.
Yes. That's what it's about. Is can we do the deep digging to figure out what does style mean to me and how I want to show up so that it's no longer a roadblock and I can really go do the important things that I have to do in my life. I mean, yeah, we
Yes.
want to look good, but like we're caretakers, we're mothers, we're CEOs, we're friends, we're wives, we're sisters, we're activists. We are trying to do really big things in this world. We need women to show up in whatever form they want to show up. So how can style, I don't want style to be a barrier. I want it to be a tool to show up in the way you want. So I think when you know these things about yourself, then it's easy. My hope is that it's
Yeah.
easy. Getting dressed is easy. It's fun. I know who I am. I'm going to put this on. This is my badass jacket or whatever. Go out and show up because that's where the real work is. That's
That's
where the
right.
real important stuff is.
That's
And
right.
I think that strengths, when we know this about ourselves, you know, how does empathy translate into style? For me, a huge practice has been what feels good to me today
Yeah.
to put on. And I think when I was working in an office, you don't have a lot of choice. Like what would feel good to me is my sweatpants and I can't show up. Well, then we have a pandemic and I was only in sweatpants. And so now what feels good to me is putting on an entire outfit because I can. And I can wear jeans now and I can wear sweat. So tuning into what feels good to me is the number one thing. That's what drives my style choices every single day.
Mm.
Sometimes it's the same outfit 3 days in a row. Sometimes it's I'm going to put on that really cool coat just because I want to. Tapping into those things. I'm curious if I can just interview the interviewer.
Please.
Relator being so high, do you see how that impacts your style? How would that show
Yeah,
up
it's
for you?
funny. As soon as you went there, I was trying to think for myself about how that plays out. And I think for me, it really is about it connects with the relationship to myself. And I think that
Oh,
there's such a huge part of the relator that is about bringing your true self to the conversation, the interaction, right? And having that. I had an episode in season 1 about authenticity and authentic style. What does that look like? And the relator in me needs it to start with me and needs
yes.
that connection point of like, what do I want to bring to the table as I'm relating to these people? So I made an example of I had met a stylist friend of mine in the Boston area. She lives on the North Shore. We had been connected for a long time before we physically met in person, like many of us in this world now. And
Right.
so I was thinking about how do I want to show up today as I'm relating to her for the very first time in person, how do I want my outfit to really feel authentic and connected to who I am and how I want to show up? And
Yeah.
very much made that choice from that place. So that's kind of where I think the relator shows up for me. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. And relators have to have relationships. You have to have,
Exactly.
and I'm sure you have friends that you've had for a lifetime that know you inside and out,
That's right.
deep, 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 deep. But for me to want to come in, like it's gonna take a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen over like, well, I mean, I think it started as like DMs to each other, but like
Yes.
you're like, can we get on a phone call? Can we just get on a live and have a conversation? And now knowing that that's your number one, like that makes total sense. Like you're not, I don't want to stay up here at this high level chit chat. I want to get deep with you. And boy, we did. I mean, we
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah.
And I think strengths is one of the reasons why. Um,
Agreed.
and among other things, you're just amazing. So it makes sense that that's how, then when you think about your style, it's like, what do I want this to reflect in relationship to
About
myself
me.
and the other person I'm going to be around today? I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Thanks. It honestly, like, I think there is so much that influences those choices. And I think having known I know my top 34, and I feel like, I think I've heard somewhere that it's like roughly like 15, 16 and above, like
Yeah.
those may not be as operational as your like 1 to 15. And so
Yeah.
for example, my number 10 is woo, which
Oh,
is fascinating to me
it is.
because is the relator, right? Like the woo, the winning others over, is
Yeah.
all about this, like, what I consider relatively shallow conversation, right? And kind of having this like showstopper moment to be able to, like, again, win people over. And I'm aware that I can do that
Yeah.
and have the ability to leverage that. So that's the thing I also want to mention about strengths and style. It's about like pulling out of your back pocket the talent that is going to serve you the most in the moment, and how that
Yeah.
also can be reflected through your style.
Yes. And we are not, there's a kind of a saying that they take turns being the line leader. And I really do think most people operate within their top 10. Like those
Okay.
are the ones that are most intrinsic, I think. There's a when I have access to someone's full 34 report, there's an exercise we do when I say go down the list from top to bottom, and where there's a break in that, like this is me, this is me, this is me, and then you're like, sometimes draw a line. And for me, it's like my top 12. I really own those. I can see them, they show up. But then below that, it's like a maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
We are all of these things. Like just because discipline is not high for me, I can be disciplined. But the way that I create discipline is through my relationships with people. So what keeps me disciplined is that I know I have clients that I need to serve. It's not like I have a schedule where I write down every single thing. That's not how my discipline shows up.
Yeah.
So it's really focusing on, anytime I do this, people will say, well, I don't have a lot of influence, or I don't have a lot of executing themes, because all of these themes are grouped into 4 different categories. I don't want to get too in the weeds because it can get
Yeah.
technical
Until you know the tool.
until you
Yeah.
know them. But I'll say, but you influence people by getting things done. Like if you're high in execution, you're a doer,
That's right.
you're influencing me because I know I can trust you and I ask you to do something and you're going to do it. I'm not high in executing, but I'm high in relationship building. But I get things done because I'm energized by being around people, because I have people who rely on me. So I know I need to get these things done. So you learn that you have everything you need. You don't have to try to be more disciplined. You don't have to try to be more competitive. You don't have to try to be more focused. When you're leaning on and working in your strength zone, you are going to get those things done in the way that gives you energy and feels good to you.
Yeah. And that feels like the magic sort of sweet spot of all of this, that when
Yes.
you can see those connection points, and honestly, I feel like this approach again gives people, again, the permission, but also the information. And people do different things with information, as you very eloquently said, but I think a really fascinating part of this story is helping people unlock it, right? Like get to know what it is for you and then use that to your benefit.
they even say like strengths are the Gallup Strengths Finder is the tool to unlock this knowledge. Like there's a slide when I do group presentations, it's got a little lock that's unlocked. It really does open up to, oh, that's why I do this. What's fascinating is when you show this report to someone who's close to you, a sibling, your parent, a partner, and they're like, oh yeah, I totally see that. And they'll reflect back to you how, because again, we're so close to them. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize that that's what that, you put a name to it.
Yes. Yeah.
You can name it. And I'm big on that with style. Like, let's put a name to what your style is. Like, I feel like it's classic with a polished edge, right? Put names to that. And same thing with your strengths. It's putting a name to why you do the things you do, why you like the things you like in every area of your life.
So I love this conversation. I'm so grateful to you for kind of painting the picture of how these two are like partners with each other, style and this exploration of self through this strengths tool. And I really want to encourage everyone listening, like dig in a little bit about this. I'd love you to learn and understand and really maybe even explore working with Erin, because I think this approach, I really haven't seen other stylists go down this road. And so I'm such a proponent of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I think it's such a unique like mark on the whole industry, and really feel like I would love people to find you and connect with you and to experience this through your talent as a coach, and to be able to kind of mirror that in your work as a stylist. So Erin, this is just awesome. So thank
Maria,
you.
thank you so much. I mean, what a very generous and beautiful, I'm so grateful that you want to talk about this work and put it out there to people who are following you, who is also an amazing stylist. I just appreciate that very, very much. And I mean, I really believe in it. And I know you have the same approach. Maybe it's not, you're not using Gallup as a tool, but really helping women tap into, you have everything you need to have great style. We're just going to help you unlock.
That's right.
And unearth these things so then you can do it on your own. So we're not, our approaches are similar in that way. And I'm really grateful to be able to share this work, and thank you for believing in it. Cause I know some people are like, what? I don't understand this person.
Oh no, I'll scream it from the rooftops. I think
I will, I will too. And I appreciate it. I really, I think self-knowledge is really important. And if for no other reason, you can take it in other areas of your life. But I really do see so many links in how it can inform your style. So thank you for letting me talk about this today.
It's been so fun. And so Erin, for anybody that wants to connect or find you, how might they do so?
Well, most likely on Instagram. I'm StyleThiefFashion, THIEF. That's one thing that always gets people tripped up. StyleThiefFashion. I have a website by the same name where you can find out more information on my services and how to work together, book a consultation call, all that good stuff. So those would be the main two places I would say. But I'm kind of an open book. My email address is on my Instagram. It's on my website, so we can get in touch if you ever want to work together. But Instagram is where I hang out most often, I would say.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I'll include that information in the show notes. So you guys can have reference to that information and make sure you're following along with Erin and getting all the good stuff that she puts out there. Amazing content, really interesting. And I think authentic. I just want to go back to that word, that like, you are who you are, as I experience you through Instagram and other channels, and just being able to see you in this space and to connect with you in this podcast has just been an awesome experience. So thanks, Erin.
I adore you. Thank you so much for it. Thank you for all the great work you're doing as well. I so appreciate you, and I've learned so much from you too.
Likewise. So we will see you all next time. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks so much for listening today. If you enjoyed what you've heard, I would appreciate you taking the time to leave a review on the podcasting platform you're using, and share this episode with others who you think might really enjoy these conversations about personal style. For more information all about MFD Style services, you can find me on the web at mfdstyle.com, on Instagram at mfd_style, where I post almost 5 days a week, or send me an email at maria@mfdstyle.com. I also have a weekly email I send to subscribers, so I will include the link to that sign up in the show notes. So until next time, friends, remember to love yourself and then love yourself some more.